Hey everyone, this is Miles, your tech guy. This is one of my first only videos I've done. I wanted to talk about Darling in the Franxx today. I have actually dropped the anime recently, and I've seen some social media start up, and it's made me interested to go back. And after watching episode 12 through 14, it has got me hooked back in, so let's talk about it.
Hey, Miles. Right forward, David. Diego. Jose. And Heather. Get your game faces on. Not Diva.
All right, so lots to talk about here. This anime, Darling in the Franxx, Trigger and A1 Pictures, this combination is supposed to be. It was expected to be like this god anime, you know, like this really high production, really amazing, the next masterpiece kind of, you know, anime. And for me, I dropped it about episode 11 for me, and a couple of the other crews here on our Chibi podcast have also dropped it. So I know that a lot of people have had issues with it, and a lot of people have dropped it, not just our crew, because what got exciting and had an interesting premise ended up dropping off because of filler type episodes. Even if they're not necessarily filler, the episodes would kind of turn into that, and it really kind of bored me. I mean, it would get into character developments, and that was fine, but then you got weird issues with, you know, like taping off the room where only the girls have this room and such, or just kind of needless exploration of the characters. And then my biggest issue was not really knowing what the threat was, what the enemies were, you know, like not knowing anything about it. It was just turned into a teenage drama show with not really anything to really care about, and the main character was kind of bland. I know a couple of us have had issues with Zero Two's character building, and anyway, that really detracted me from even caring about it. Episode 10 was where I got really interested because I started talking about the humans and the side of like the adults versus the kids and what separated them, and getting into more of the adult world that you've been wanting to learn about and giving you answers. And that was really great, even though there's some mystery in there. And then episode 11 came, and it came back to another filler type episode. And at this point, 11 episodes out of a 24 episode series, I'm done at this point. That's how I was feeling, because it wasn't getting anywhere. It's halfway over, and I didn't feel there was any really good progression. I mean, and that's just an opinion, of course, but a lot of us have felt that way here in the group, and others as well. Anyways, I saw a huge explosion off of social media recently. And on this explosion of social media, there's been these debates and issues between Ichigo and Zero Two, and I didn't really read them because of spoilers. Huge issues from episode 14, and I'm like, what is going on? And then one of my good buddies, Eric, hit me up, and he told me, have you seen Darling in the Franxx lately? I'm like, no, I gave up at episode 11. He's like, I understand why. Go watch 12 through 14. I'm like, is it just 14 I didn't see, or actually 12 through 14? He's like, no, they're not filler this time. Watch 12 through 14. You're going to get some answers, and it's going to change your opinion. So I said, okay. So this weekend I turned on Verve, and wow. Zero Two, crazy character. So I got really intrigued, and I was really invested all of a sudden, and I was really liking it. So what ended up happening, this is where we get into some spoilers here, is you see the past between Zero Two and Ichigo, where Ichigo ends up being this boy that wants to talk about, he wants to ask questions to all the adults. This is when he's a kid, and they keep telling him he can't ask questions. Well, I'm just going to kind of sum this up, because I really want to just talk about the issue. I don't really want to talk about what happened. This is, the 12 through 14 got me back into the anime. This is where I tell people, if you've dropped it, you need to get it back up, because what turned into me a bore fest. You see the details between Hero and Zero Two of how they first met. You found out that he tries helping her escape because he finds out it's a huge imprisonment, that she's being kind of tortured and being experimented on, and he gets her out. They try running away, and the adults end up finding them, knock Hero out, blah, blah, blah. So his memory gets wiped. He doesn't remember any of this, which also answers some of the problems to have all these promises that all the kids remembered having with Hero, and he doesn't remember and why they've had issues with Hero. I liked that aspect. You do find out, though, when he is running from Zero Two, when she gets injured, he does a thing where she's bleeding on her knee, and he tries healing her, and ends up licking out the blood off of her knee, which in turn gets Hiro some of the blood that she has, which helps explain why he can survive with her when he pilots with her. That was great. I liked that. That was great for me. But the biggest thing was when they're piloting, 02 has an issue where she just wants to become human. Or as human as she can get, because she wants to find her darling. Well, her darling is Hiro. She just didn't know, or what we assume, didn't know that Hiro is actually the darling that she met when she was a kid, that she's been longing to look for. And the more she feels she becomes human, the closer she can get to meet him and be with him forever, because of this children's book she got, of a picture book of a monster's tale of a monster falling in love with a human, and this monster becomes a princess from the wish of a witch. And I actually paused a lot of these scenes because they're going so fast with these picture books and put subtitles on. I actually was so invested on getting to know the backstory that I knew these books were going to connect somehow. And so I paused even on the ending of the episode when they actually showed the rest of the picture book and read all of it. So there's some great backstory there. But the thing is we don't know if she actually knows if Hiro is the darling, which I don't think she does from how it's portrayed. And she goes on just a rampage against a fight when she's in the mech, and Hiro's telling her to calm down, and she's not listening to orders, she's not obeying, she's going crazy. Hiro does whatever he can to stop her. She gets mad, and part of her body comes out like a red soul, I don't know what you'd explain it, and she ends up getting mad at Hiro, like, why are you stopping me, and chokes him almost to death, and he passes out. Wakes up in the hospital. He has these huge, nasty bruises all over his neck. I mean, like, he almost died. She almost killed him. And anyways, when that happened, when she was strangling him earlier in the mech, he gets all the memories of meeting her, the memories he had of the promises he had with his friends as a young age. And he looks at her and says, is that you that had the picture book? Is that you that I met all those time ago? You're the monster back then. And she gives him a look, crying at him like, wait, what? And then, so that's when it kind of just goes to the part where he blacks out and is in the hospital bed. So this is where it gets interesting. This is where social media, what I went back and read what the issues were, and now I see where they're coming from. It turned into a big issue this last episode, episode 14, where after he got tortured and almost died, there was debates between the crewmates where the Hiro was in danger to be around her, because the crew was able to find out that over 100 so people have died piloting with 02 because she sucks the life out of them. They can't sustain being with her long enough that they end up just dying. And Hiro's the only one that survived, and now we learn that's because he's had her blood in him, and that his yellow blood cells, or whatever they talk about in there, is higher than normal humans, that if he ends up piloting with her any longer, he's going to eventually turn into a monster like her. So that was really cool. She ends up just wanting to talk to Hiro in the hospital bed because she's realizing that's her darling from the past. And this is who she's been sacrificing everything for to meet and be with. And now that she's finding out that that's him, she'll do whatever she can to talk to him. The crew's not having that. They almost lost one of their best friends. He almost died. They know that he's a danger, or that she's a danger to be piloting with him because he could turn into a monster eventually. She almost killed him out of anger. She's not listening to commands. She's not acting rational. They're just being protective. And this is where it comes opinion. Ichigo does a big decision where there's a next mission. Hiro's still in the hospital bed, and she literally tells the command that them and their entire crew will not do this mission unless 02 is off the mission. This is where people are getting a little salty, and I understand. She made that decision for the whole crew, and you could see some emotions from the other crew, like she spoke up as their captain, but they weren't exactly maybe agreeing to that, because a lot of them got connected with 02 as their teammate. But I understand where Ichigo is coming from because she loves him. So we got to remember here that these are teenager, like 16-year-old kids with hormones and all this, even though they don't really understand their age and how that compares to adults. But we have to understand that, to me, 02 and Ichigo are acting completely in character of how they've been shown, in my opinion. Whether you don't agree with their actions, that's another story. So when she tells him no, it ends up turning into a later scene where Hiro's still in the hospital, and the entire crew gets beat up by 02 because they wouldn't allow her to talk to her. You see Hiro catch 02 in the act, holding Ichigo up and about to beat her up too when everybody else is unconscious. He says to let Ichigo go, and that right now you're acting like a monster. She cries, gets emotional, and runs out on that. She doesn't. That's just the end of that scene. So it ends up turning into an issue where, at the very end of that episode, there is a moment where 02 is with these elite class, single-digit number characters, and they're walking to go on their next mission. And that was supposed to be the end of when 02 is in the crew anymore. And you see Ichigo come run up to Hiro when they're leaving and grab him and say, "You don't need to go, just stay with me." And she pretty much confesses her love. And you see Hiro looking at her, doesn't know what to say. You know, he's still thinking about 02 and wanting to say final words, because he wanted the final words with her. You know, the 02 wanted final words with Hiro, but you never got to see him because the crew interfered with that. So there's undiscussed, like, you know, they need to discuss what happened with each other, but they didn't get it because Ichigo was forcing her foot to not let that happen for protection of her friend. So when she confesses her love, says she loves him, ends up trying to kiss him, she kisses him twice, and Hiro's kind of a blank state. He looks back and sees the ship fly away with 02, and you see him crying. He wants to just run, but 02 won't let him. I mean, Ichigo will not let him go. And that's where it kind of ends. At this point, with most animes, when they confess feeling, and I remember talking to David here from our podcast a little earlier about this, was with most animes, it's kind of obvious to who they're going to fall in love with or who they're going to choose. I don't know on this one. And getting the backstory is interesting. It shows that the adults they're very manipulative, very controlling. There's a lot bigger picture going on with these experiments with the kids, and it looks to me like the adults are going to be the bigger enemy, and I believe that they created a lot of these monsters in this show, but we'll have to see. That's just a theory. I have no clue. But anyway, what I'm liking is the love triangle going on between Ichigo and 002. Personally, if you want to hear my opinion on who's right or wrong, I think they're both right. 02, you have to remember, though, she is a monster, obviously, right? And she's killed a lot of people for her goals, which kind of makes her evil and a villain, in my opinion, even though she's not trying to be. And I do like her character. I didn't like it before, but now I'm liking it more. And I'm understanding where her character's coming from, not that I exactly morally agree with it. Ichigo, on the other hand, I understand where she's been, and at her age group where she's been, we've all been teenagers before, and I actually agree with how she's being and being protective. If you saw your best friend, and he went off with a girl, and he got married and come back, or let's say it's, you know, whatever, and he's, you know, got bruises all over, beaten, he's on drugs now, whatever it is, you'd want to be very protectful of that friend, and that's how she's being, especially if you're in love with that friend. So I understand where she's coming from. I kind of agree with Ichigo a little bit more. I understand it's controlling and all that kind of, I see the other argument of that, but at the same time, I mean, I get it. Put yourself in her shoes. What would you do for a best friend that's being hurt? So this is what's intrigued me to see this anime through. To me, this is where it's needed to be 6 episodes back. It shouldn't be halfway that we're getting this. So I do have issues with that, but it literally turned from something that became a 3 out of 10 to me to like a 9 out of 10. I want to know what's going to happen. It's not the best anime to me. It's not a masterpiece to me because of the stretched out character development. That a lot of it came off as filler. So that's my opinion on it. If you guys are intrigued and have been wanting to get, you know, development in the show and the backstory and stuff, it's finally happening. And I know that it's taken 14 episodes to get there, and it does suck. But these are, you know, the production studios doing these are 2 really, you know, highly rated studios. And it's finally kicking into gear what we're used to them presenting. So if anything, hopefully I've convinced you to get back to watching it. I did drop it, but now I'm heavily invested in, and I'm telling a lot of my the podcast group here members to start watching it, and they're going to start watching it too. So hopefully I've swayed your opinion to go and watch it, and I'd like to hear in the comments your opinion on what you think between Ichigo and 02 and how you feel who was right and wrong. And this is a short mini episode of Darlene and Franxx kind of debate review. And let me know what you think. It's Chibi No Podcast.
It's yours! Yours was nothing!